Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to Phil's Recap and Review. The Sopranos, Season 4, the season premiere, the live watch, live commentary. We're finally getting into Season 4, the back half of the episodes of The Sopranos, and we're going to get all into this episode, because this, as Matt was saying right before we started, is a big episode and a big change to the series moving forward. Not meaning to just get right into it, but bang, here I am, Phil the Issues Guy. I'm joined by Big Daddy Matt, and we got with us the live motherfucking chat. We got John Haymaker and Jay SM down with us right now. We'll have some other people popping in and out as we go. This episode is called For All Debts Public and Private. And Matt, I think I have to really think about it, but this might have been the very first Sopranos episode I watched in real time live. I think I had heard about it through the first 3 seasons, but I didn't have access to HBO. I wasn't able to watch it. I was an Oz fan before HBO. Before I lost HBO, but I had lost it during the period of time where The Sopranos was most prevalent in those first 3 seasons. And heard so much about it for the 3 years, I did pony up and get to watch it for 2 seasons, seasons 4 and season 5, before I had to cancel it again and end up showing up on your front door with my hand in my hat begging you to
Well, I had no couch, and we were sitting there like on 3 chairs, you, me, and Joe.
You want to hear what's funny about that is Joe did not remember that. I told Joe about that live on a stream, and he's like, I don't remember that. He didn't even realize that you lived in the same building as Elia. We got.
What is he? Yeah, of course I did. What?
Yeah, he was foolish. He deserved to get the Polly Walnuts treatment. But we got Jonathan McMahon. Hey Phil, what's up? John Haymaker, got to work in a few minutes, but good to have you in the live chat, John. Thank you for popping on in here and throwing that like and throwing the support. And maybe I might be. That's my Uncle Phil. He's the one. He's the guy I'm going to hell for. And maybe I might be the one because I'm manipulating your time here on this warm summer's night in the middle of April because it feels like summer here in the Boston area, watching a Sopranos episode. If you've never done one of these with us before, what we're going to do is watch the episode live and comment on it. If you've never watched the episode before and this is your first time, this might not be the best way to watch the episode for the first time because we're going to talk all over it. And if you're not watching the episode live with us, we'll give enough context to what the hell's going on to make you feel like you're watching along as well. But this, again, Matt, this is a big episode. This is the first episode in the line that I would also argue, and I don't know how you feel about this, that changes the tone of The Sopranos. And not for good or not for bad, just slightly different. The show goes from, in the first 3 seasons, being a little bit more comical, and then with the death of a certain fat man and a lot of other things changing in season 3, being a very funny season with Pine Barrens and everything we watched at the end there. Do you feel the same way? Do you feel something like watching this episode, it's a little bit more serious? It's a little bit more seeing the decline of Tony Soprano to a certain extent?
Well, yeah, I want to say part of it is that Paulie's in jail. We learned that early on in the episode that Paulie's in jail. So he's the comic relief usually throughout the series. But I have to say, as someone who's a Tony apologist all the time, saying that, oh, if he lived a different life, he'd be a good guy, he'd be a stand-up guy if he wasn't involved with organized crime. He is a piece of shit throughout this entire episode to everyone, and not in a mean, like, no one, with the exception of Georgie, I think his name is, the guy at the bar. With the exception of him, he's just manipulative and backstabbing and a real piece of shit to a lot of people. Yep. And I take back. It's one of those episodes that it doesn't have any so huge plot lines where you go back and watch it. Like, I've gone back and watched, like a lot of the episodes with Ralphie that come later in this season. Yeah. I've gone back and watched a lot of those. I don't go back and watch this one. So, like, a lot of episodes I've just seen 4 or 5 times because when I'm clicking through episodes to watch, I click on it. I don't think I've seen this one in ages. And Tony is such a piece of shit.
Yeah, I'm the same way, Matt. I feel like I didn't get to pre-watch this before us. This will be the first time I'm watching it in a while. And I honestly couldn't remember what happened. And then I read a little bit and realized it was the episode that Christopher kills the person that is his father. We're going to talk all about that, and we're going to have to bring up that thing that no one wants to talk about, that we're going to have to bring up, that movie thing that we have to bring up at some point tonight, Matt. We have to talk about it. It's a giant Uncle Junior elephant in the room that we need to bring up here in a second, but I want to avoid that. But I agree, this is a change in Tony. As much as he is still sociopath, or if you want to call it that, in the first few seasons, this is the beginning of Tony being an asshole. And to my point, thank you for addressing that, Matt, because I was going to say that. You see more in season 4 progressing forward. That line between Ralphie and Tony shrinks. Tony becomes more, maybe slightly worse because he's more calculating. Ralphie, and then as we see Ralphie later in the season, who isn't perfect, but mind you, slightly getting better. Like what happens to him with his son sort of sends him in a slightly better direction. Yes, he kills the horse. Does he kill the horse? We're going to get to that.
He kills whores and horses, according to him.
Maybe not the horse. There's no proof he killed Pyomai. We'll get into that. We'll get into that later. That's going to be a big point moving forward, because I have a feeling Matt thinks Ralphie did it. I'm not too sure. I think he was fucking with Tony, and he was making taking his stand against Tony's bullshit there at some point in time. But this is an interesting episode and sets up a lot of different other avenues moving forward. Is this when Ralphie and Janice start in this episode?
Did you not rewatch? You didn't see this one?
I didn't see this one yet. I think this is when Ralphie.
Phil. Phil.
Does he cheat on your birthday dog tonight?
It's so disturbing when it happens.
And I know it's in the bathroom with drugs and stuff, but the people that don't know what I mean right there, we can all send a very happy birthday to Matt and Mrs. Big Daddy's dog, Rosalia Prio, who is 14 today. So happy birthday to Matt's dog. Woo, Rosalie. But for your birthday, Ralphie basically cheats on her when she's at the table, still dealing with the horrible death of her dumbass kid that deserved every fucking moment of sorry Jackie Jr. people die. Okay, so let's get into the live chat for a second before we start this episode. We got Big Daddy's 86 degrees here. It's like 84, 85 here in the North Shore Boston area tonight. John Haymaker said, I sound like a weather person. It's cold and cloudy in California right now. Hello, fellow Soprano lovers. We got Why So Curious. It's always a party when we have Why So Curious in the live chat. We got Big Daddy. We got Kyle, father to the Bears. Kyle, I haven't watched the episode. I haven't seen the episode, but it's always fun to watch your show. That means more than ever. We do appreciate taking the ride with you as well. I will just advise to you that you may want to rewatch the episode without two assholes like us talking over it, but definitely check it out and don't leave us. Just stay in the chat and have a good time. And exactly Why So Curious. I think that's what Matt was saying, and I couldn't agree with both of you more. Tony is a bully. I think that's the best way of, and he's a petty bully too. And you see a lot of that this season with Zellman, which happens in a couple of episodes, I believe, where we finds out that Zellman is dating Irina, and he doesn't really want her, but he goes over there and whips him like he's in the shower, like he's.
Yeah. It's the most insulting way you can attack someone. Just whip him in front of. Yeah, and to stick it to Irina too by doing it in front of her, just emasculating the shit out of him in front of her.
He couldn't perform anymore after that. No shit, Tony. God, which ultimately led to Carmela and his separation because he did that. Irina calls AJ later in the season and drunk or fucked up on drugs after Tony bangs her cousin. After in that situation, finding out that Tony had sex with the one-legged one, and that's a big part of the epic point of this season, the apex, which is the Whitecaps episode, whatever it's called.
It's not Harold and Kumar.
It's not Harold and Kumar. It's not Tony.
It's Whitecaps.
It's not Tony and Carmela go to White Castle. It's not that.
Tony would love to go to White Castle, I'm sure.
Oh, those burgers would be way too small for Tony. Those would be
There's actually, since you haven't watched this, there's actually a great food reference with Tony at the end of this episode.
I can't wait. We're going to get started in a second. Let me just catch up in the chat. And I also wanted to mention, if any of you all want to call on in, you can do that at 781-990-8509 throughout the episode. You want to get your voice in the show. You want to tell Matt and I, we don't know what we're talking about, but we got something up our soprano asses. Well, we'll talk about that. Or you just want to say hello and ask us about something completely separate. We're open for everything tonight as we watch this episode, Matt. One last thing before we get started. You mentioned it earlier. Two things before we get started. Number one, this is the start of coming out of nowhere. Unless I didn't see it at the end of last season, it also completely recanonizes the dynamic between Carmela and Furio. She's upset when Christopher is picking Tony up in this episode. We didn't see any of that before this, right? This is
I don't believe that we did.
This is the start of that, right?
It's the first time you see her get a little turned on for the
ponytail. And it honestly, this point moving forward, changes Furio's character. In the first few seasons, he's vicious, like a horrible fucking person. They turned him into
there's no charming
romantic there. Remember when he shows up at those dudes' house, give me your money, you fuckers. He's an asshole in those first two seasons, and this starts romantic Fabio romance novel Furio in this season that carries through, I believe, through season 5. I think it's when Furio disappears at the end of season 5, maybe. No, it's at the end. It is the end of the season.
Tony is such an asshole to literally everyone in this episode, and he is the most selfish. Again, I'm a Tony apologist. I always think that, in his heart, he's a decent person, and he's just caught up in this fucked up world where his morals are sideways. But he's such a manipulative asshole. What he does to Junior in this, what he does to Christopher, which is that's a whole other thing.
Yeah, we'll get into that. But
who even knows what that who knows how deep that deceit was? And then even Carmela, he dicks Carmela over in this. Everyone,
and he uses, and this is when he's really using his psychotherapy against other people. With Junior, make the older folk feel like they're in charge still, with the sale, kind of manipulating him on that sale and jipping him out of some money. Everything that he sets up with Carmela, starting with the living trust and all of that, he sets this all up, leading into, by the end of this season, visiting every divorce attorney in the area to make it harder for her to divorce him and get any actual money. Tony is a menace this season. Jonathan McMahon says, it's called Breaking Bad, T. Apparently, it's a lot like our thing, but I don't really see it. Yeah, it's called Breaking Bad. And Tony does kind of break bad, in a sense, this season. We got Percy Garcia in the live chat. Listen, Matt and Phil. Pie Oh My was nothing but a whore. A whore. I have to put 2 syllables in the whore. That was a pathetic Ralphie.
And, hey, whore. Kyle, just want to let you know, I'm in Vermont, 20 minutes from the Canadian border, or 20 miles from the Canadian border, and it's 83 up here. So I don't know what the hell is going on up here.
Why So Curious says, my mother was a whore. Thank you for putting the apostrophe there. Why So Curious? Because you need to do the double syllable to pull off the Ralphie whore. Luna says, great to see Luna in the live chat. Channel member Luna, thank you so much. Same with John Haymaker, who's a channel member in there. If I missed any of the channel members, I cannot thank you guys
Luna,
enough.
You really think Furio was hot, huh?
He's okay. I didn't get to that comment yet, but we'll take it. We'll take it. Who else is on the show?
Jackie Jr. was an attractive guy.
Jackie Jr. Is Christopher an attractive guy?
No.
I think Christopher and Furio are both arguably taste-oriented, attractive guys.
I've told you, if you're into bald guys,
Artie Bucco
is hot.
Johnny V's a handsome dude, no doubt. But I'm saying, in that world, Furio is great, and the way they play him this season, just whirl, dancing around, da 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 da. I see it. I see the Furio. I do, Matt. I see it 100%. I'm with Luna on this one.
No, one of those guys. We'll see one of the captains. I forget his name. It's the one that's like Albert Barisi in that.
Oh, is he the one that dies in the Pissadoo?
No, not Gigi. You'll see who he is.
No, I know. Okay.
You'll know when I go, that guy's hot. Like, you know what I'm talking about.
No,
He's
okay.
a very minor character.
So Carmela to Tony, what's the difference between you and me? It's you're going to hell when you die. Classic Carmela. Classic Carmela. Carmela's a whole bag of other problems, but I'm hard on Carmela. And
we know you're hard for Carmela.
I am hard for Carmela, but but Matt is often easy on Tony, so we're giving Tony a little extra shit here because this starts Tony's demise.
Yeah, I have no I can usually defend what he does.
But you defend Tony a lot.
There's this side to it. He's just trying to do this. He really is trying to be a good dad, but he's not equipped with the skills. So no, he's a menace in this episode.
Yeah.
Absolute menace.
He is. Kyle says it's 81 and oh yeah, hot and sticky.
That was my response to him about how it's 83 up here.
But you didn't respond to Jonathan McMahon's hot and sticky like my balls. You should have done that one too. We get let me keep going. Kyle says Tony gobbling down 20 tiny burgers while talking smack would be an amazing scene. It really would. Yeah, we do need I hope that was shot in both there.
I'm so curious. I've seen that meme, the Furio and Carmella making Trevor Lawrence. Phil, if you've never seen it,
I'll definitely try to check it out. I'll definitely keep that.
It literally, Trevor Lawrence, for those of you who don't follow sports, who's the quarterback for the Jacksonville Jaguars, literally looks like if Furio and Carmella had it.
maybe they did. Maybe they did.
I'm telling you, take a look at him. It literally looks like Furio and Carmella.
After Tony, maybe not. Spoiler alert for the finale. After Tony is maybe gone in the finale, does Furio come back for Carmella? No. Why so curious? Also, Furio is I think not you and I, Matt. We're gonna take the word of Luna and Why So Curious on this one, on whether Furio is hot or not. Both of these women in the live chat say he's hot. We're going with hot. We're going with hot for Furio. And Why So Curious says it's hilariously accurate, actually.
The Trevor Lawrence thing. Yeah, just wait till you see it, Phil.
I will. No,
if you can find a picture of him and put it up on screen, and particularly if you can find the picture with the two of them on either side, it's literally if you put their faces over each other.
Once we start the episode, I will look for it.
Yeah.
You can also, if you can find it on your computer, you can screen grab it as well. But let me look for it.
Can I throw it in the chat? Like, again, I'm such an old man when it comes to this.
Yeah, you can throw it in that chat if you want. So
let's see if I can figure this out.
So everybody, if you're watching along, now is the time. Oh wait, no, I'm complicating you, Matt. Right? Don't do that yet. I'll do it. Don't complicate. We're gonna start the episode in a second. So.
No, I'm good. I'm good. I can hit play whenever you're ready, Phil.
Okay, we're ready now. Let me get to a restart episode. Okay, so we always do this. What we're gonna do is we're gonna count 5, 4. Oh no, 3, 2, 1, and then play.
Yeah, time out. I already ruined my thing. I gotta make sure I have closed captions on because with you.
With me?
Wait, whoa.
With
I need
me?
English on because I'm gonna be.
You're as big of a yenta as you're as big of a yenta as I am. You know, I know at least when you're on, I don't have to do all the talking.
All right, we're good.
Okay, so we're gonna cue it up wherever you're watching it, wherever you have your Sopranos, if you're choosing to watch it with us. If not, like I said, you'll be able to, we'll give enough context to what's going on. And we have it 3, 2, 1, and we're going to be pushing.
Then we hit play.
Push play. Yep. Not on 3, not on 1, on go. Okay, Matt, should I call or you want to go?
You go. I'm ready whenever you are.
Okay, here we go, Matt. Let's do it. 3, 2, 1, play. Here we go. We're going. Oh, I got HBO.
I do too.
Oh,
I got the intro now.
No, I think you're a little ahead of me, but that's okay.
That's fine.
That is okay. And there we go. We're starting our episode of The Sopranos. So what meme am I looking for here, Matt?
I got it.
Oh, you do? Okay, cool.
I'm gonna find it.
And here we are starting our episode. What do you think is the best premiere season of The Sopranos, or best first episode of a season of The Sopranos? Probably the first episode ever, like season 1's premiere. I would.
Yeah, no, because he doesn't even sound like Tony yet. I can't agree with that because he doesn't sound like Tony. It's off. It's like this. It's like the first Seinfeld episode.
Yeah, maybe that's a separate Soprano video we'll do when we're done with all of this. Like, we'll do some shorter Soprano content and stuff. Well, this episode is the 40th episode of The Sopranos, written by, of course, David Chase, directed by Allen Coulter. and it has just like all the openings of most of the season, it has Tony going out into the driveway picking up a copy of his newspaper. I'm willing to bet, without having watched this episode in a while, I'm willing to bet the first thing we see is Tony going out to get a newspaper, or at least it's in the opening montage of some sort. And thank you to everyone joining us tonight, watching this with us. If you haven't already, please hit that like button and help share this out to more people. And here we go. Let's skip this right here and put that out right there. Carmela is our first character that we see right in the back of the New York Times.
Yeah, I guess AJ is at a new school now.
Okay, so the end of last season was right before AJ was going to be put into a military school, but he passed out because he has that awful putrid soprano gene.
Yeah, terrible gene.
Terrible gene. Causes you to be a fucking horrible Mario Kart player. So interesting. It starts with a little Carmela monologue, and then we go right to what I thought. Okay, this is one of the, now that I'm seeing this is actually one of the intros for a season that I remember the most. Partially because, yes, I think this was the very first Soprano episode I watched live on television. I remember this, and I think I remember the season 5 intro really well too, as we like catch up with a lot of characters. I also do want to mention something you talked about earlier, the lack of Polly in this episode. Because this was the first episode I watched, I didn't even know about Polly. I didn't really discover Polly on the show until I went back and rewatched the other episodes.
Oh, that's a weird experience to have.
Isn't it? And
right, he's just some guy in jail here. I just shared I totally butchered it. You guys probably can't even use it, but that's a link to, it comes in from PSW Shock. Good luck trying to find it. That's Phil. You may have to look up Trevor Lawrence and Carmela and Furio. I apparently am too old and can't handle it.
No, I'll do it. It's fine. Here you go. Oh yeah, her too.
Yeah, and Will Arnett's her husband, I guess, which my wife reminded me of last night. She walked in as I was watching this.
Oh yeah, that's a young BoJack Horseman right there.
And Tony's getting all excited for his ducks. I hope I'm not too far ahead of you.
Oh no, right here. But like, this is this where he starts putting the money in? Yeah,
this is how he dicks over Carmela. Like, he's just an asshole to everyone here.
And she gets back by stealing it, but doesn't
not yet.
Yeah, much later in the year. Fuck Carmela.
What's that?
Okay, I'm missing it. We'll find this later. So yeah, this whole season also could, and we've talked about this a little bit before, could just be the picture of a couple breaking up, Matt. This is very much the relationship dying. A relationship that was based on a very fine line anyway.
Yeah.
If Carmela,
she really comes in her own here. This is Edie Falco's best season.
I agree 100%. Better than future seasons with her. This is her. She's a co-lead. She always is, but she really is a co-lead in this season. And her only hope to get away is in this season, but she is
trying to get all gussied up just by fixing her bangs for Furio, in sheer disappointment when the guy you think is hot, Christopher, comes through.
Christopher Maltasante, but it's her.
And she's usually happy to see Christopher, her cousin, or however the hell they're related.
Yeah, I love how she gets back to, like, you know, she gets her sass on her when he's around, when Christopher's around, and yeah, she's pissed, and I think that's an interesting way to show it. I don't necessarily love that device. I know it's hearsay to criticize the Sopranos, but it's a little bit of telling us instead of showing us that Edie has that Carmela has a thing for Furio. I think it would have served better if we see it in the scene with the two of them. With like the first scene of the episode is, and I know that we wanted Christopher with Tony here, but the first time we see that is Tony coming downstairs and seeing the two of them having coffee and being flirty and being unaware. Even though we see that a lot, that would have to me been a better way of seeing that than her asking Christopher about it. Unless we're missing that happen at the end of season 3, which I can't remember.
Which could be. This is what happens, Phil, when you drag a 6-year like show out over a decade. You know?
It is. It's definitely true. You are absolutely right about that, Big Daddy. So let's continue here. Where this starts, to your point, Matt, about the horrible things that Tony's doing in this episode.
He's talking up his dad. He's Dickie Maltasanti was the best. He was like, or whatever. I mean, we don't know his motivation yet. Like, but we know he's annoyed at Christopher because of how Christopher acted during the Jackie Jr. thing in the last season.
And do you think by doing that he's trying to manipulate and fuck with Christopher here? You think it's an active choice that he's just fucking with him, or do you think what he's doing is thinking that Christopher was starting to get away a little bit, so he's fabricating this whole situation to bring Christopher closer in a manipulation?
Here's something we don't know yet, but in hindsight, he's trying to get Christopher into him because he puts him in for Paulie while Paulie's in prison.
Right.
He puts him. By the way, could we do you think it's intentional? As it turns out, Junior finds out at the end of this.
She's a rat, or she's a government.
But what about the fact that she looks like Gloria? Is that intentional? Like the Tony's got a thing for her here too, you can tell. But she definitely looks like there's a Gloria-ness to her.
I didn't think about that, but I see what you're seeing, especially right now. They definitely should.
Like, well, wait, watch the way she looks at him.
Yeah,
like there's a look. That look right there is Gloria.
And Tony reads it to the point that when Junior freaks out about it later, Tony read that, as he goes and checks his weight to try to be like, am I looking thinner right now? Is that why she looked at me?
And he actually does. They make references to it that he's lost a little weight throughout the episode.
This is the best that Gandolfini looks from like a thin standpoint throughout the entire show. He's
the least labored that his breathing is.
Yeah,
or at least right now it is.
He gets pretty bad in seasons 5 and 6, especially season 6. Fucking Junior.
I was reading an interview with the writers, and they were like, we just like writing for him so much because the way that he portrayed him, the way that he bitched as Junior was like the funniest thing to write for, just the way he bitches.
Yeah, it's out of all the secondary characters, he's the one that I most can't imagine any other human playing. Like,
right, Christopher. I can't see anyone else doing Christopher either.
Yeah, probably.
Well, maybe someone else could. It's hard because he's so good at it, but no one pulls off Junior. Except
young Joe Pesci playing Christopher.
Christopher nails.
He is.
He nails the heroin part of it amazingly. Yeah. He plays that part of it very well.
Yeah, the trained spotty part of the whole situation. And
Tony's trying to sit here and act like he's got as many bills as Junior, like a complete asshole. He lives in the mansion where Junior lives in like a place my grandmother lived in.
He just doesn't care. Do you think part of this is just still wanting to stick it to Junior for everything that happened with Livia?
It could be, but this is a weird thing too, because I don't get how she suddenly starts working here. Like, and because when does she open? I guess she opens her body shop after this.
Right. I think Tony cut her off after the whole when she tries to go to Carmela to get money for the
car. Right. The whole car thing where he shows up and breaks the lights on it.
Yeah, where the dog isn't really sick and she's trying to claim the dog's sick. So I think she does this to get startup cash to come to Tony and ask if she can reopen Pussy's shop. I think that's her plan. And a lot of this, what's interesting to this is Carmela views this as a bad thing and ultimately ends up jealous of her by the end of the series because she has her own thing going on. Like basically what she does is what she has to do. She's the most proactive of all the Gumars and the wives when it comes to it.
The only wife that goes out and does her own thing afterwards.
Yeah.
Rosalie never does that.
No, but do you think that Jackie left her enough money so she wouldn't have to, in the sense where Pussy wasn't prepared because he didn't know he was going to go?
Because he was a boss, I'm sure there's a level of A, him leaving money, and B, there's still an obligation to make sure she's taken care of.
And Luna agrees with you, Matt. Pesci's good, but no Christopher. Yeah, I agree. I think Christopher, Carmela, Tony Jr. I think some of the other characters, as much as Scylla's perfect, Polly's perfect, all those things, other people could have theoretically done interesting versions of some of those characters.
Yeah, but I mean, over 6 seasons, they wouldn't have been the same people. Like, it would have been, someone could have done a good job as Polly's character, but it wouldn't have been anything close to Polly.
No, if like Phil Leotardo played Polly, it might have been all right, but it wouldn't have been as good. It wouldn't have been as ridiculous. He might not have been able to pull off pine bearing kind of stuff, or the jealousy, or some of that stuff. Frank Vincent, could Frank Vincent have played Polly? Could a, and again, I think the answer is no to all these questions. Silvio's not an actor, but no one else could have played Silvio because they basically made Silvio Stevie Van Zandt. So anyone else they would have had in that role. I don't think if they had him come in to do Tony Soprano initially, he didn't do well in it, and then they created the character for him essentially. So if he said no, you just wouldn't have had Silvio. You wouldn't have had that character. So he's so much. No one could do that part.
I was reading about this episode, and because this episode has more direct ties to that movie of whose name we will not speak of than any other movie.
Right. We have to speak of it, Matt.
Yeah. They said a weird thing about them aging up Silvio in that movie, because they do. Because originally, when you hear the story of them taking down the card game, Feature Lamana's card game, when Ralphie describes it, he says, he goes, I was supposed to go with Silvio Dante, your dad, and Tony together, and the three of them went, implying that Silvio, Tony, and Jackie Sr. were all the same age. And then in that movie that we don't talk about, they make Silvio like 10 years older, and then someone said it just makes Tony so much weirder in the series because it means he was just like hanging out with all of his dad's friends, because that's who Paulie was, and that's who Silvio was, and that's who like all the other old guys were, and they weren't even his friends at that point, his inner circle.
So Tony's eating, ignoring, doing what he does, and I guess we need to. Let's bring it up now, Matt, as we get through
Well, first of all, the reason Carmela's bummed out here is because she just saw Angie Pompanzero at the store, and she's now concerned about, who's going to take care of us, what's going to happen. And she has this whole mortality thing about Tony, because now she starts seeing in like the newspaper that certain, an armed robbery went wrong and someone died in some other part of Jersey or wherever the hell the article was about.
A small little poll for the live chat right now. See what you guys have to say about this. Best antagonist for Tony: Richie, Ralphie, Phil Leotardo, or Olivia?
I mean, my vote is always going to be the same for that. But
who's your vote?
Richie.
Okay. The reason I said is because Luna in the live chat says the best was Richie Aprio, a Cobra ready to spring. Pesci's good, but not Christopher. I'm back. Do you think they did a disservice to the character of Richie by the way they had him go out, or is that interesting for you? Would you have rather see the battle between him and Tony actually play out?
No, because it couldn't have gone on much further at that point.
Yeah, and it was an interesting sort of dark comedy way to end that scene and that whole arc.
Yeah, I mean, I don't get what the end game is, besides that he had started personally insulting Tony too when Tony went over his house, and he's like, my house is going to have this. How big is your house? When he's doing all that other stuff. Matt,
the end game is having an end more similar to how Tony and Ralphie's end goes on. Like a knockdown, drag out kind of fight situation between the two of them.
Yeah, but I think my money's on Richie in that point.
Me too.
Richie's the scariest guy in the show.
Matt, we're going to get to it, but Ralphie, who is not as scary as Richie, does a good, almost with a couple of slips of the dice, could have taken Tony down in that fight. Tony, it's not a clean knockout kind of battle in the sense that you would think it would.
Well, Ralphie fights dirty. I don't know if Richie would.
Richie would fight so dirty. He'd bite him. He'd Tyson his ear off and shit. I gotta turn the light on. I'll be right back.
He'd hit him in the head with a coffee pot. That's his move.
He would. That's his favorite move.
Veal Parmesan sandwich.
He'd drive over him twice and then back up the car.
Let me tell you something.
He'd drive over a couple times and back up the car. Why So Curious is I liked Richie's death. Best thing Janice ever did. I would agree with that. It's Janice used at her best. And
dude, she's another one. No one else plays Janice. She's
so
such
good.
a dark, fucked up character.
So good, so good. And this, again, the scene that we just ended with Tony and Carmela is the seeds being laid for ultimately what destroys them at the end. Yes, it's one more infidelity situation, but it's really about money, insecurities, and that kind of stuff. And Carmela's like, if I'm not going to get it from Tony to set it up for me, I'm going to take half his shit and set it up for myself. She just doesn't conceptually think about it in the sense of getting money from Tony's mafia holdings. I think Matt's frozen for a second. It's an interesting angle of Matt being frozen. Right now you can just see his head slightly above. Oh, there you go. You're back. You're frozen for a second.
Yeah, my internet's been doing this all day. My apologies.
Oh, no, don't worry about it.
I should have warned you of that.
Okay, Matt, but just so we don't miss it, again, Tony is worse to this guy than Ralphie. Look at
No, he's not.
Tony is worse to this guy than Ralphie.
Throw some ice at him, and he deserved it.
Dude,
Ralphie tortures him for fun.
You think
if Georgie shuts his mouth at any point in that interaction,
this is your worst opinion about all of this press.
All he had to do was be quiet.
He's so horrible to Georgie.
I don't think it grows on trees. All he had to do was shut the fuck up, and he's
fine. You're so.
There's nothing he could have done to avoid getting beat up by, like losing an eye to Ralphie.
He's the worst. Tony's the worst.
That guy. That's the attractive guy.
Oh yeah, I forgot about. Is that the guy?
I don't know who he is.
He repeats. He's the guy that always repeats himself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a minor character. I'm just saying from someone who was actually physically attractive in the show.
No, I hear you. But
in a Jersey Shore sort of way, like not someone I would.
So he looks like the situation. He looks like the situation or Pauly D. Is what you're basically saying. Okay, see,
different type of Pauly.
Yeah, different type of Pauly. It's true. And I love this scene. The pep talk that he's giving. He got yelled at. It's something that you see on How I Met Your Mother. They call it the circle of screams. No, the structure of screams, but no, whatever it's called. Where you yell at somebody and you can't help but someone yells at you can't help but take it out on people that you can take it out on. And Tony definitely uses his guys to take out the frustrations that Carmela projected onto him. Not to mention, at this point leading into this, even though he has problems post-prison, Pauly was probably one of his best earners, right? And then Pauly being disappeared in prison probably hurts.
Of his captains, he's certainly the one that he trusts the most.
And he's probably number 2 in earner at this point behind Ralphie. Ralphie's probably his number 1 earner, and then Pauly's number 2. I'm assuming. The way he treated Pauly before he went to prison, I would assume Pauly would be number 2. In the sense of what he's bringing in.
Pauly's supposed like one of his best friends in theory.
In theory.
Although we know how much weight that holds at the end of the series when,
Exactly. One too many Gumars plus no financial security. How much? I love this. This is one of my favorite lines of the entire show. Like, Syl doesn't say anything, but he's like the expert. He's like, Syl, I don't want to hear about the economy.
Saying since time immemorial.
Listen, tell him, Matt, what 2 businesses don't matter in bad financial times.
Certain parts of showbiz
in arting. What parts of show business are you talking about? You talking about?
That's the part. He never tells us what parts of showbiz they are.
He's talking about the
like it's a scientific answer. Like he knows that's the answer. Like I've done research. There are studies have been done. It's parts of showbiz and arting. That's it.
I know. I love it.
Let me bring in the expert.
Exactly. Let me bring in Stevie Vincent, a guitar player for the Springsteen band, East Street Band. He's gonna tell you about how business works. Oh, certain things in entertainment and thing. He's so perfect. And honestly, that movie we're not going to talk about till we have to talk about because we have to talk about it tonight, Matt. I'm sorry.
Soon, unfortunately,
is one of the worst characters in the whole entire thing of ours was the Syl, because he can't be too comedic. You can't do him over the top because Steve Van Zandt is naturally over the top. So you play that straight. It's like, again, with acting, this is acting lesson number 307 from Phil. If you have to play drunk, don't play drunk. Play not drunk, trying to not be drunk. Like, don't do certain things over the top. And if you, I mean, some people can pull it off, but
The way I saw someone describe it, it literally seemed like an SNL skit. Is what he felt. He felt like
dude,
he felt like an SNL skit of what Syl would be.
he straight up seemed like he was in a Sopranos. Like, didn't they do a Sopranos skit during the Will Ferrell era of Saturday Night Live?
Years ago, I'm sure. Yeah.
Interesting one, Claude, that I didn't put on the list. Dr. Melfi is the best antagonist. Interesting. Right now we have a couple of votes, both for Olivia. Make sure if you're in the live chat, if you're popping on in, give us your vote.
I never voted. Time out. Let me get my Richie vote in here. My vote counts, doesn't it?
It does. I can vote too.
Yeah, we know who you're voting for, Mister.
Oh, you're breaking. See, I don't like it being broken up from perfect. Oh my God, you bastard! Don't. Actually, I can't vote. Bastards. I'd have to log in from another account.
Phil, you missed part of this where Tony really doesn't want Ralphie over the house.
Right. And is Ralphie as charismatic? I love how kids love Ralphie, but is Ralphie as charismatic as Ralphie thinks he is, Matt?
To Janice he is, but he makes a Jew joke here. Phil.
Yeah, he does, but he's. I love how he turns. Sorry, you Jewish? I'm not Jewish. Okay, but I'm just kidding. So Janice is hot and bothered. Carmela's parents are very uncomfortable with Ralphie at the dinner table. Carmela's almost finding it all funny. I think Carmela finds it funny, and Tony is so pissed off.
And Rosalie doesn't find it funny at all.
No, but I don't think Rosalie's in a position to process it right now. And Carmela, who is looking gorgeous right there, I mind you. Edu Falco looks amazing right there. And sorry, Janice, who is spying the drugs in the room. I think all of us in our youth, except for Matt, because he never did this any bad substances. You spy that person in the room. It's the Snoop Dogg smoker. They talk about it in Half Baked. Janice is like the Snoop Dogg coke and banging in the bathroom here. She just spots it a mile away. She's like, ooh.
Shout out Joe Glowacki.
Oh, Joe Glow. I actually might hang out with Joe Glow this weekend for a few minutes.
Love it.
I'm going to feed a cat in his hometown, and I will. I might stop by to puff one with him.
Danielle Ciccolella.
Danielle's a great character. I wish we got more of her. From what I've read, and I could be wrong on this, Matt, but from what I've read or remember from the Talking Sopranos stuff, I believe the actress got other work, like a more full-time part, so they had to sort of write her character out to a certain extent, and that's why Agent San Savarino became more of a part of the show, sort of replaced her. The other character that was in the car with Adriana when she had duty problems. Luna says Olivia for sure. Why so?
So my internet had cut out. I'm back now though.
Oh, that's okay. So yep.
Well, I was gonna say though, everyone who left this show to be in something else, Adriana, and didn't work out for anyone.
Adriana probably had the best career in the sense post-Sopranos, being on Sons of Anarchy and showing up in a couple of other things. She had a pretty substantial part on Sons. I don't know if you ever watched that show, Matt.
Yeah, but would she have been better off staying here?
Oh, no, I think it wasn't, I think it was way after, if I'm correct. I don't know, did she choose to leave?
Yeah, she chose to leave.
Oh, I didn't know that. I did not know that, Matt. So I believe this character... I think she did a better thing because she just did a more important kind of show. And I love how the agent, she's just poking around things, looking for stuff as, oh God, this is one of the most uncomfortable scenes in all of the entire, because neither of these people are attractive characters and humans. But in reality, Joey Pants is a handsome dude, and she looks great in person too. But the characters play up their ugly qualities, and they do not look good in this scene. And this is uncomfortable to watch, Matt. I feel like you and I are watching a snuff film. As Tony puts two things together to focus, he's like, "Oh shit, oh shit." That's like putting.
He knows, and he doesn't trust either one of them.
No, it's like putting fire in gasoline, dude. It's fucking awful. She was on Sons. Yeah, she was on Sons. Sam says she chose to be killed off, asking Matt, yeah, I might need to check your math here, but wow.
I'm here, Phil. I'll be right back in 1 second.
No, that's okay. If she chose to leave the show, that's a poor choice by Adriana. But yeah, she was on Sons. Speaking of Puff One, I'm rolling one up. Listen, Percy Garcia, I highly encourage that kind of behavior when watching my streams. In fact, if I am to ever advertise things to you, I'm looking for hippie-orientated stuff to encourage that kind of behavior while we're doing live streams. Yeah, Tony killed her. Stevie Buscemi blew up more Boardwalk Empire. Absolutely, but I think he even blew up before he was Tony B. He was already Buscemi. He's one of the...
he was already... I don't consider him like a Sopranos actor that went off to do something else. Like all these other people's most famous roles is the Sopranos. I don't think his is.
Is he the only example of a big star that got more than a cameo that wanted to show up in the Sopranos? I guess we got like Terminator 2 guy shows up for...
Joey Pants a big star?
I guess Joey Pants is the other one. Joey Pants, in the way that I mean, like a successful star that chose to sort of...
Well, he wasn't in...
This was post-Matrix, and...
Was it? It was post Memento.
I think it was post Matrix as well.
And it was probably post Fugitive. I don't know if it was post Matrix or not. Whatever. It's probably right around the same time. 99 was the Matrix. So.
Yeah. Oh my God, Junior. Oh my God. I feel like I am so gonna be Junior in like 2 years, Matt. When it all goes white and I'm looking bad, I'm limping around.
You're gonna lose the hair, Phil?
Yeah, the hair is gonna fall out. I'm gonna be limping around the cave. I'm gonna see a single dude walking around. I'm gonna be like, flirting with every nurse that's like checking my pulse to make sure I'm alive. It's gonna be a pathetic sight, Matt. I'm gonna be pathetic old man singing, thinking that they're laughing at my jokes. You know, it's bad. Steve Buscemi blew up, but yet Buscemi's probably the biggest star besides the Sopranos main actor to be on the show, right?
Robert Lodge is a known actor.
Yeah, Robert Lodge, but not Buscemi level.
No. But everyone knows him from other roles.
Buscemi led a show, has led movies, star Fargo, star Boardwalk Empire.
Yeah, I mean, he's a huge part of Fargo. He's a big part of what's that first Tarantino movie?
Reservoir Dogs.
Yeah, and he's in some weird Adam Sandler movies.
He's also in Pulp Fiction, in Airheads, in a lot of Sandler movies, but Airheads is the first one.
He's not in Pulp Fiction.
He's the waiter in Pulp Fiction, I believe.
He is you're right. Amos and Andy or whatever else he says. Yeah.
I believe he's the waiter in Pulp Fiction. People can correct me if I'm wrong on that one. But
no, you're 100% right. It's such a bit part that I forget it's him in it.
Yeah, but Tarantino loves that, and they bring it back. And then he was in all the Coen Brothers movies besides Fargo. Like he's popped up in a bunch of Coen Brothers movies.
Yeah.
Where obviously The Big Lebowski is a big, huge role for him as well. So Buscemi's been in a lot and never.
He's huge in Lebowski. It's a huge part of that movie. Yeah.
He directed on The Sopranos early on, but that's a little Godfather shout out. That was like the Godfather scene with Michael with Neary pulling out the gore. Armageddon. Yeah, that's his big Hollywood budget.
You're right. David Lee Roth showed up, but I don't consider that that was a real cameo.
Lawrence Taylor.
Frank Sinatra Jr.
Lawrence Taylor showed up. Saragusa showed up. Like all those guys, I don't really.
Who's the coach of the Jets was in it?
Mangini
maybe was in it.
Mangini. Angie. What's her name? Angie Dickinson was it or something? Or and then where Christopher punches her at the Jewel concert.
I don't even remember that.
Oh, John Favreau.
Yes, but he's playing himself in it.
Yeah, we got.
Jesus, Ben Kingsley.
Ben Kingsley. Yeah, we got Ben fucking Kingsley as well. So again, here we go. We're Polly fucking Walnuts. Mr. Deeds is one of his best Sandler performances.
Thank you. That's the one I was thinking of that he was in.
With speaking of Lebowski, John Turturro's in that movie as well. Huge in that movie. So this starts the Johnny Sack and Polly relationship.
Dude, no one is a better manipulator than Johnny Sack.
Johnny Sack plays the game too well. They have to almost give him kryptonite later on with making him too emotional. But early Johnny Sack is like playing the game better than anybody. He really is. I love him, Mr.
He doesn't give a shit about anything Paulie has to say here.
But Claude's right. David Lee Roth did show up. There was a lot of like guest appearance actors that did show up.
Tony, Frank Sinatra Jr. was in that one of those games too.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Sinatra Jr.
And wasn't Frank Sinatra's daughter in an episode too? She sings to Philly Attardo at his birthday, I believe, and then has like kind of like making out with him and stuff. There's also Annette Bening is in a dream sequence, I believe, at one point. I think isn't Annette Bening in a season 6 episode maybe? I could be making that up.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess we're not going to count Benny as a famous. No, because those other guys aren't famous actors. He was in Doogie Howser, but that's not like
Not Betty. Oh, did someone say Betty? No, I said
No,
Annette.
I did. I'm making up. I'm just thinking of people that I know from other places. But
Yeah, but I mean, Vinny Del Pino is a name. Yeah, it was Nancy Sinatra. Thank you, Claude. It was Nancy Sinatra that showed up. She's like singing the Johnny Sack. I love Paulie in prison here, but again, Matt, having just watched season 4 for the first time, is my very first Soprano stuff to watch. Paulie was an odd one to me. I felt like his tone didn't match the rest of the episode.
And he's not happy, Paulie, because he's in freaking prison.
No,
he's in jail. He's not happy.
And he's almost not happy for a season and a half after this point, too. It wasn't until I went back and watched the first few seasons where I really got love for Paulie Walnuts. Like, I didn't like him through most of the run because I was just like, ugh, this guy's annoying.
Luna, she was on... She played herself on a few episodes of that show I never watched.
Entourage.
She was on it. Entourage, yeah.
She played Entourage, but
Well, Melfi is actually a well-known actress, but she's a main character in this. She's not like a...
She was the star of Goodfellas,
Yeah.
the second lead of Goodfellas before this, and did a lot of movies. So Milfy was a big star as well.
Tony calling up and lying to his wife that he was working. So that's why he couldn't come home.
And I love how every Soprano premiere episode almost has to show you a little bit of everything. Like we need this scene with Tony talking to the other bosses, and then having a scene with a bunch of hookers showing up, and having a big for stripping stewardesses, whatever.
Oh, it's the girls from Icelandic Air.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, how's it going? Oh,
and it's the first time we hear about the Esplanade, which they don't shut the fuck up about.
Do you want to play with my Fafagnugan? Yeah, whatever that. Mike Epps was in an episode of The Sopranos too. Michael K. Williams, Chalky White. Oh yeah, Chalky White was it. He was in the episode, the last episode we saw, I believe, or the episode before that, where Jackie Jr. dies.
Furio is still, sleeping with the girls from Icelandic Air here. I don't know how charming he's being.
This is
a romantic, romantic.
He's
Furio.
barely enjoying. He's thinking he hasn't made the connection with Carmelo. This is one of the coolest, evilest Tony Soprano looks. That look right there. The other one that's awesome we'll see in season 5. When Christopher finally has a drink after trying to go straight, and he's in the bar, and Paulie's making fun of him, his daughter maybe being a stripper at the Bing one day, and you see Tony in the back of the thing in shadows, just smoking the cigar with. I feel like Matt, you've mentioned that before, is a favorite moment of you too, for seeing like Tony at his darkest, like almost looks like Ganondorf getting ready to fight Zelda or Link or something. So this is the scene, right?
But Christopher, that scene you're talking about, Christopher plays that so well.
Yeah.
A guy who has had a drink and hasn't had one in years, or shouldn't have had one, is just wasted.
Huge rest in peace to one of the greatest, Michael, who is amazing in this, and also The Wire, of course, and playing an incredible.
This is unnecessary. We do not need to see.
Oh,
that.
come on, I need to see it. But one of the other character that Michael played that I deserves mention that gets forgotten about between his Wire performances, he was a huge part of Boardwalk Empire. And speaking of Buscemi, so definitely rest in peace to one of the best HBO actors of all time. So Tony, who doesn't really seem to take account that Christopher is doped up here, takes him out of the room with the Icelandic Air girl. And
he says, you learn anything? You said to sit down with 2 bosses.
Matt,
and now he does this to him.
We're going to talk about it, but we're going to wait till after the episode to talk about it. But we need to... No, I want to talk about right fucking now, Tony. Excuse me, I just called you Tony. I want to talk about this right freaking now, Matt. Because we see Junior right there. Is Tony making this all up? Does this guy have anything to do with Christopher's father's death? Or is that the guy right there, my Uncle Junior, that's taking me to hell? Is Uncle Junior the one that has to do with it? Do you buy
I think the only
Many
person
Saints?
who knows that Uncle Junior had Dickie Maltasante killed is Uncle Junior.
And Paulie. Wasn't Paulie there too? Didn't Paulie...
I don't think so. I don't remember. I watched that once and I've tried to forget it.
I watched it. I tried twice. I made the first time I watched it, I fell asleep. The second time I fell asleep. I'm going by like reading about it a little bit, Matt. But I hate to say it like this because I don't want to be these geeks, Matt. But we're these geeks, Matt. Is the Many Saints canon to The Sopranos?
No.
To you, or really? Or is it a one-off? Is it a dream thing? Do we take this into account when we're talking about The Sopranos right now? Do we have to talk about that? And if we do, this is a complete manipulation by Tony, and this guy has nothing to do with it.
There's no way that Tony knows that Junior did it.
So he's completely.
Tony would have used this. Tony would have told Christopher when he was really mad at Junior and wanted Junior like dead. He would have just told Christopher, Junior had your dad killed.
Yeah, so you think he's just completely making this up out of nowhere. And Christopher thinks he might be on his way out. Let's go into the live chat before we end this episode a little bit. But
I think we're not even close to ending this episode.
Oh, I thought the episode was over.
Oh, God, no. Phil, we're like halfway through. There's 20 minutes.
Oh, nice. Awesome. For some reason, I thought it ended right here, and then he was in the house.
No. We see this come to its logical conclusion tonight.
Nice. Awesome. Okay. Luna says the intervention they did for Christopher was fucking hilarious. Oh, that was maybe one of the funniest scenes in the entire.
That's one of the funniest episodes, one of the funniest scenes of the whole show.
We got the amazing, the wonderful Walking David in the live chat, who will at one point join us on one of these live Soprano live streams. Great to see Walking David in the live chat. And if you haven't already, make sure you check out the Walking David on the Ticks and the Talks. It's one of the best channels, pages, whatever the fuck they call it there. I got one too, but who cares about me? Follow the Walking David. He does impressions of all sorts of characters and fun stuff. Loyal, your old man. He doesn't
see. So here's the thing.
He doesn't really know him.
One thing we don't know is we have no idea. Well, which is why it can't be canon, because like.
It's bullshit, Matt. It's fucking bullshit. It's David Chase making shit up. Yes, Sonic, your boy, we need a real prequel series if they do one, because the shit we got was bullshit. That was bullshit. Bullshit. Sorry, Matt. Sorry to stop you there. So you're with me on this one. Many Saints of Brooklyn, bullshit. We're not taking it into account?
No.
But so and what you're also saying is either way, whether that's true or not, Tony would use this to manipulate Christopher.
The question is, does Tony? The question here really is, does Tony really? There's no way Tony thinks the Junior killed him. Because Tony would have either A, killed him himself, or B, used it at any point when he wanted Junior dead, which has been many times.
Unless Paulie told him, but he never would, because everyone knew that Tony loved Dickie, so he wouldn't want to. No one would want to tell Tony, because.
Well then, okay. So here's the question then. Is Tony making this shit up to Christopher, or is this what Tony actually thinks happens? Let's pretend that Many Saints never happened, because I can't.
No, we have to pretend it happened, right?
Fine. Either way, there's no way that Tony thinks that Junior did it.
Right. All jokes aside, let's pretend that Junior did kill Dickie, okay? Just for the
Sure.
just the sake of argument, right?
The question here is, does Tony really think that guy in there is the person who killed Dickie Moltisanti?
Maybe. To your point.
Or is it just someone he wants dead? Because that guy that I said was hot, the captain, when they talk about, that thing petered out, it just died in the vine. We have no idea what he's talking about. This could just be a guy who's retiring tonight. He's a corrupt cop. He's retiring tonight. Maybe he is someone who knows way too many family secrets and is now retiring and is no longer he's no longer useful to them and knows too many secrets.
Right. And Tony's using this as just two birds with one stone.
And I have no idea. I have no idea what the case is.
To bring Christopher.
Because this guy legitimately, you're going to see it in a second. This guy legitimately acts like he has
no fucking idea. I remember that part.
Idea.
And to your point before, if Tony thinks this, you got to think when Tony got to be a certain age in the mafia or something like that, would he do inquiries into what happened to Dickie? And someone could tell him that.
When he was deciding if he was going to strike against his uncle or not, when Mikey Palmisi died and all that other shit, wouldn't Paulie have just told him at some point?
Yeah, that slippery prick killed Dickie too. Yeah, maybe. Yeah. But ultimately, you got to think that.
Wouldn't Livia, when she was mad at him at one point, have told him? Like, someone would have let that slip.
Or his father. My father.
But I honestly, I haven't watched Many Saints. I only watched it that one time. Maybe no one knows except for Junior.
As Claude says, Many Saints made more questions than answers. Remember when she saw the psychic? Many Saints is not canon in my books as The Walking David. Just an atrocious movie. And David, that says a lot. Like, David is a complimentary kind of guy.
I just can't believe they made
He's so right. It's so pathetic. It's awful, dude. I don't even find
It's
anything
worse
redeeming
than the
about it.
Star Wars movies. It's worse than anything anyone's
It's
ever
the
made up to just ruin something.
It's for anything with any legitimate budget, it's maybe the worst prequel ever.
The bar is so high for this show.
Yeah, and Matt, that is so low. It's so low.
I
Agree.
mean, like for instance,
Matt, you're having some slight technical difficulties for a second.
oh, I am.
No, you're back. You're back.
That Breaking Bad movie isn't good, but it doesn't fuck anything up.
Yeah, no, it totally doesn't. It doesn't. It is what it is.
Anything up.
It is. If anything, it just adds slightly more texture because at least the Skinny Pete and
Yeah, and
Badger
add some slightly more weight
to Todd. Absolutely. Speaking of weight, this is the start of Bobby.
This is a funny scene. This is a great scene right here between the.
Yeah, it starts with This starts Bobby being more part of the show, and I like it. I'm here for it. Matt, you are having some slight technical difficulties at the moment. Hopefully, it will pass in a moment. You keep disconnecting and reconnecting slightly, but you're back
What
now.
about now? Are we okay now?
You're good now. You're good now.
All right.
But you got a little bit of like the old fashioned kung fu movie where your voice is moving and your mouth's not matching up to it a little bit.
Smooth.
Yeah, it looks good. Looks good. So yeah, Luna, there's so much more story to tell. There is. Remember when he saw a psychic? Polly with a psychic is another one of the most hilarious scenes in the entire thing. We got Fandom D Saint in the live chat. Great to see you. I think it was probably Tony's plan for Christopher to do this hit and then later face the repercussions, taking him out of the game like Feech. Maybe having something on him that he could pull up at a different point in time. Interesting point, David. Sam, yeah, she's one of the girls with the kids. Okay, cool. I didn't know that. El Camino was great. Sonic, I'm with you. I actually enjoyed El Camino from beginning to end. I think the biggest problems, the where you can pick it apart, is how Aaron Paul and Todd look. I think, but just for what it is, it's a simple kind of fun action movie that I do think extends the Breaking Bad universe a little bit.
It just brings you back into that universe for a little bit. It was like a nice escape, and there was nothing bad came out of it.
Yeah.
This here, though, when he's questioning right now Junior's sanity, I think, because Bobby's so dumb he doesn't realize that Quasimodo and Jesus, now I'm friggin' Bobby. Quasimodo and Notre Dame aren't the same person.
Yeah.
Isn't it Notre Dame? It's like, no, it's Notre
Dame.
Very different from it. And now, and Junior had just told him, hey, I'm going to put Bobby in charge.
I know.
And now he's like, this guy's a fucking idiot.
And he realizes he needs to school him. And again, this starts the process. And I love how the end of this whole scene is Tony ordering the same meal. He's like, okay, I'll take one of those.
Yeah, I'll have one of those.
What ties more loose ends? The end of Breaking Bad, El Camino, or the end of Better Call Saul?
What he tells him right here, he goes, whoever told you this is deliberately not telling you the truth.
Yeah. Specifically states that. Sonic, your boy, that's a great question that I feel like I could do a whole podcast on. And that might be a fun one to come back into the universe because I've been looking for an excuse to do that. I would probably, on instinct, say the neatest ending of all of those series is the ending of Breaking Bad. I think Breaking Bad, even though it's a little over the top or some way, the way it ends is so distinct. So specific. You know exactly what happens. It's an over-the-top, exciting way. The hero wins one last time and loses one last time. And I think you could say similar for Saul.
Jesse gets away.
Jesse gets away.
All of the things get tied up.
The Joker gets away. Yay. And Saul is very good, too. I don't want to talk too much about that in case people haven't watched it yet. It's being added to Netflix soon for people that haven't checked it out yet. But Saul was close. I think El Camino's pretty good, but I prefer Saul or Bad for the end. And El Camino, it makes me go, I want to know what's going on with Jesse in Alaska. So where the other two series end at a point where you're like, okay, this is an end point to a certain extent. Maybe Saul less so, with being vague about it.
I don't know if Christopher does this stuff if he's sober right here. Because he's in here, he's like, my dad he was carrying a TV stands for me to watch TV when he, up until that point, thought his dad had a crib in his hand.
Right, he wouldn't have been talking like that, but I still think he does the hit. Either way, he does the hit.
I think he asks more questions. I think maybe I don't know. He's killing a cop. I mean, killing a cop.
But he says it right there. It doesn't matter if he's the one that did it. Tony wants him dead. He has to do this.
I don't think Tony tries to get him to kill a cop.
No, it's you just said it, Matt. It's an excuse. This is Tony Breaking Bad. He's using something he has against Christopher for leverage to get him to do something that is on the level of extra dangerous because he knows Christopher's kind of a cowboy.
He also knows Christopher's kind of fucked up right now, and he's almost setting Christopher up for potentially getting caught for this.
Yeah.
What if that cop had cameras at his house? Like he just doesn't give a shit. He just lets him knows he's gonna go in and do this.
I love how Christopher's just hanging out in the guy's house watching television and stuff. And here we go. Is this when Junior fell down?
No, he brought him a steak.
Oh, I brought a mistake. Okay. Who's here? Oh, Karen. I always forget we actually meet Karen.
Yeah. What is great is they keep the continuity with the kids. It's the same kids here.
Yeah, no, Bobby's kids are pretty steady all the way through. I like Bobby Jr. I think Bobby Jr. I believe he's Bobby's kid. What are your opinions on Bobby on the Steve Sharippa, whatever, as an actor on the show? Because I know you've been hard on people like Big Pussy and his Skip. So what do you? And I know Bobby has a little bit of that, like, what's the word? Inexperienced actor vibe about him. I think he does a great job.
The single worst, like 5 seconds of the show and worst acting of the show is when they ask him to adjust the lights when Christopher's getting made. And they go dim the lights, and he goes and like literally moves them up and down. Like no human being alive would ever do that.
So, but what are your opinions on Bobby Bacala as a character in general?
It's all right, I guess. He's not that exciting.
He becomes so much more a part of the show post him and Janice, post the end part of the series, post Christopher.
I don't know why they chose to make him such a big part of it.
Who else?
I think there's better characters.
Who else in that situation was left that they could have picked to do that with, though? I think it was like
all to marry Janice,
not to marry Janice, but to become like a bigger character. Who you putting up, Benny, or you would have to bring some? You think Benny over Bobby? I think he's a better actor.
I think Artie breaks up with his wife and gets into this
family.
This thing of ours.
Gets into the thing. You think Artie would die so quickly?
Yeah, I know. He'd have his earring in. It would get ripped out. He'd.
How quickly? How much?
What's the line? What's the line he says to him? Oh shit! What does he say to the guy in French?
The Armagnac guy or whatever his name is.
Qu'est-ce que c'est? What the hell does he say to him? If anyone has that quote,
yeah, it's great.
What the hell does he say to him?
It is a great one though. I like Bobby's character. He does a great job. Says Sonic. Why so curious? Says early Bobby wasn't the best, but he's sweet. But Sonic says Bobby's arc in the last season when he got into a fight with Tony. That's when I think Steve Sharippa becomes a better actor as the series goes on. You see him get better as time. In the last season, season 6, he's legitimately making moves as an actor in like the scene when like looking at Christopher, him and Christopher have weird heat because he's the new Christopher and being by Tony's side. There's a couple of moments where you can see him sitting next to Tony and embracing, becoming more evil, becoming more controlling. His whole thing with the trains, I think, is actually some good acting.
And he goes after Paulie when Paulie gets the cheap shit for the festival.
Oh yeah, because one of his kids.
Yep. Yeah.
And it's like all that stuff's good acting. I think he starts off pretty weak.
He's like crying when his wife dies, and it's like it's not.
Why so curious? Says Bobby beat the brakes off Tony. He definitely beat Tony in that fight.
He didn't. Tony tripped.
Oh, you're blaming it on the Monopoly pieces on the rug.
Here I am being a Tony apologist again.
I love how a big part of Tony and Junior's relationship is Tony eating off of his plate. That's a way of showing intimacy. When I was talking earlier, Matt, about showing, not telling in an acting sense, and that's a good way of showing Tony and Junior being close without him saying to Matt, without me saying to you, Matt, you and I have always been close since the 3rd grade. You know, like it would be actually, if someone saw you and me in the same room, my arm would be around you pretty easily, and we'd be like eating snacks together, like we would. But like,
just be comfortable.
We'd be very comfortable, and you see that with him and Junior, and him and Johnny V play that really well together as well. Artie Bucco. I think if you're watching this show, those
or as you said, him and Janice together is like what you picture, like a brother and sister.
Yeah.
Like when they're just like getting drunk after someone dies,
hanging out.
Like when they're just doing shit that brothers and sisters do that only they can do with each other.
Matt, I've said this before and I'll say it again, and I mean this in a really polite, awesome way.
It's so fucked up the way you say it, but yes, I know.
You know exactly what I'm about to say. You two are not psychopaths, but it reminds me sometimes if you and Michelle are hanging out on a
when we were younger, yeah.
when you're younger and shitting on each other back and forth and talking shit but loving each other, like an obvious love between the two of you, but you guys give each other a more of a hard time than anyone else gives you guys. And if someone else, like if someone is like, "What are you guys doing?" You're like, "No, fuck you guys," you know, like, and then you're like team Big Daddy against the person, and it's
yeah. Neither one of us is like as crazy as Janice or a psychopath.
Oh no, not even close. Not even close.
But like, it's weird because as much as Tony hates her, those moments he does let it down and becomes close with Janice again. You know, it's weird.
No, you have a lovely family. And speaking of weird relationships, though, we get this to top off our episodes as always, our Melfi and Tony scene. And she's getting a little bit more proactive. And I like at that moment, she's like, wait, can I stop you? But Tony is at the height, to your point, Matt, even in therapy. He's being a dick to his therapist by just being like a steamrolling and using her for what he needs to get from it. I go to therapy now, Matt. I take it seriously. I talk to my therapist. I enjoy it. It's pretty good. You know, I have a good dynamic with my therapist that can tell me to shut the fuck up when I need to shut the fuck up. When I was in high school, after I was kicked out of school and then had to go back after there, one of the conditions from the ball sack for me to do it was to do, I got taken out of like school classes partway through the day and had to go see the school psychiatrist and psychologist, whatever, and talk to him. I went into that. I used it to practice lying. I just made shit up when I was in there, and it was used as a way I could practice bullshitting somebody, and it worked, and it taught me how to bullshit. And Tony is almost 85% using his therapy for bullshit, for not getting better, for coping with this life of ours that gets to him on some level, and how to be a better gangster.
Yeah. There's one thing we haven't talked about in this episode because it sort of fell between the cracks, is that for those who aren't watching this, at one point he's meeting with the counselor that he ends up whipping later on.
Oh yeah,
the counselor tells him, "Hey, listen, they're talking about the Esplanade thing coming through and the hotel they're going to build down there and some other stuff they're going to build."
Oh, Matt, did you hear about the Esplanade? Oh.
Yeah, it's a big deal. And he says to him, "Oh, if you had any property," he's like, "Listen, if I were a man in your position, I'd be buying property up in this area right now." I forget what the hell he calls the area. He goes, "It's worth a lot of money." And he says, "Oh, my uncle has some land down there."
Yeah, and Tony.
And then he goes to Junior's house and says, "Listen, I've changed my mind about not helping you." Because earlier, when they're in the hospital, or when they're doctor's office, he says, "Junior, go punt. You're not getting anything out of me." He goes, "Oh, I want to help you out. Let me buy that garage off you down on such and such that you don't use it." And he goes, "What for?" He goes, "I'm just trying to help you out." He goes, "I'll give you like $100,000 for it," knowing.
Oh yeah, knowing
his uncle who is literally going to be millions of dollars in debt when this trial is done. He's going to quote unquote help him by buying something that
Matt,
in like a year is going to be worth 10 times as much.
You know, no one else is going to know what I mean here. It is such a Dan J move. It's such a like, you don't know what it's worth. I'm getting that thing and I'm flipping it before you even know what the hell is going on.
But he's acting like he's doing his uncle some great favor.
That is the shit he learns in therapy. And when I'm mentioning that earlier, that is exactly the shit he learns in therapy. Speaking of an end to the episode, our third star of the series, like Matt was talking about it earlier. We've got Edie, Tony, and Chris here, and this is such a great Christopher episode, and this relationship he has with his mom again is a very harsh kind of relationship, but there's so much love here. There really is so much love.
And she says that line, "Did I saddle you with a stepfather?" Like, in other words, I've stayed miserable my whole life
for you
to not make you have a stepfather.
Right, to honor the memory, and it doesn't seem like she's even like Rosalie, where she entertains suitors. It seems, from what we've seen of her, she's basically devoted her life to taking care of Christopher, or trying to put Christopher together in drinking. From what we've seen about her in drinking, I like the dynamic when Tony B shows up, and that how she's connected to his family, which is the not so richy section of the Soprano family, where they're sitting at like Carmela's party on the way back and shit. They're like, "Fuck this place," and the kids steal from AJ and stuff. Like I love all that stuff. It's like I wish I had the balls to like steal from Jesse H and a couple of the other people we grew up around that were kind of douchey. Not so
Jesse
much.
H. I'm like, who are you talking about? No, I know who.
Not so much like the like John H. or some of those people that were just so nice. I would never do that. There were some of the rich people we grew up on that I wouldn't have minded having the balls to steal some shit from. You know what I'm saying? Like not all of them. So most of the ones we were friends with were really awesome dudes. Like John H., one of the best guys I've ever met in my entire effing life. Yeah. And the whole
his brother, great guy.
The whole family or something like they're the opposite of the Sopranos. Like they're literally the best people in the world I've ever met. Like all pure good-hearted individuals. But some of those people people in the Stanley vicinity that we grew up around, I wish I was more of an asshole back then. We could have scammed some of them. We could have gone Soprano on them, Matt. Okay, little bit more.
Also, look, quick shout out. One of my favorite albums from the 90s that is like no one's ever going to remember it is this John Spencer Blues Explosion album that I loved. They play a song from it in here, and like no one knows. Like it was just something I caught this time. I was like, holy shit, they're playing that song from that
Matt, one of those underrated things about The Sopranos, speaking of that, is people don't realize at the time new music was not the easiest thing to discover all the time. MTV wasn't really playing music videos. The internet wasn't a full-on thing. So you discovered music a lot through a show, and The Sopranos would feature a lot of new music or a lot of interesting music
or even older music. How many people don't know that song, My Lover's Prayer by is it Otis Redding? And it's that one of the best scenes in the show is when Christopher's in the hospital dying and Adriana's like breaking down. And it's like a montage of all these different relationships.
I remember like Craig was in a band with some dude that had a song in The Sopranos in one of those episodes, like that was playing like heavy music, like I think it was one of the bands that playing in Adriana's club or something. Like there was, I could be making that up. Maybe it was like he wasn't in the band, like there was a friend of a friend or something that was in a band, or it was the first time I think I heard Power Man 5000 maybe was on The Sopranos or something too. They just featured a lot of interesting, unique music from David Chase's standpoint, and also I know sometimes he would turn to Stevie Van Zandt and go, hey, you got a new band or something that I could listen to. I've heard Stevie Van Zandt talk about it in the Talking Sopranos. So the music, as much, Matt, I'm glad you brought that up because it's something we don't talk about as much, but more than almost any other great big show. Yeah, other shows have songs that feature, but something like Breaking Bad, for instance, has a lot of just soundtrack stuff, not songs. So it's more of like someone orchestrating it, which is great, or Game of Thrones or Prison Break where you have Giovanni or something.
And that music in Breaking Bad
fits it so well. Yeah,
it builds, it drives a lot of the narrative. There's scenes of like one of the scenes where Walt hits someone in an intersection. I've only seen the show once all the way through.
And Matt, you do, and just to couple my point, you get a lot of licensed songs in the beginnings on the intros and the cold opens. They'll use songs. And let's go in the live chat here, Matt. Bobby about Polly and Matt. Why the fuck is it this song? Yeah, why is this fucking song? They keep showing Tony always eating a lot on the show, and I thought he was alluding to him dying of a heart attack at the end of the show. Do you think that would have been an interesting end, Tony dying of a heart attack from eating too much meat, or one of the panic attacks finally
taking? That's how he really died in real life.
It's like, scary. Yeah,
Gandolfini. That's in, I got that issue.
But Matt, in fairness, you don't do the cocaine that James Gandolfini did, and other sort of drugs, and go on speed. And
certainly not in the last 20 years. I haven't. So,
yeah, you know what I mean. Like he was like going on and off drugs too often while he was drinking. Anyways, Why So Curious says, on the podcast they talk about how Bobby could possibly be the mother figure to Junior, and it was very interesting. With a mom like Livia and a father like Johnny, what a crazy daughter. Yeah, Janice is the perfect daughter for that. At first, I didn't know.
But whatever. Karen's normal.
Karen is relatively normal. Or no?
We don't know Karen. We see her 3 times.
Is that her name, Karen?
Is it? Is it not Karen?
No, Karen's Bobby's.
Is her sister's name Karen? Anyone correct us? What's his sister? What's the other sister's name?
It's I'll know it in a second because Karen is Bobby's wife's name.
Oh, you're right. It's Bobby's wife's name. What the hell is their sister's name?
We'll think about it. It'll pop into our head in a second. What's her name? And the kids are coming. And her husband. Someone in the live chat will say it, or we'll get
Yeah,
it.
whatever Tony and Janice's sister's name is.
Oh my god.
Why the hell can't I remember it?
I'm having a blank on it now because I'm trying to think about it. Tony's.
And it's not. You're right. It's not Karen. Karen is Bobby's wife, as we literally just saw. That's why her name was in my head.
It is.
Please also be
Barbara.
Barbara. Yeah.
Barbara.
God, they're both that same age. Karen and Barbara is like those. No, Karen's a younger. We went to school with a lot of Karens, Phil. Barbara is like my mom's friend's age.
And I mean, we had a couple of mothers of the kids we went to school with that had the name Barbara.
Ironically, I don't know. No, I don't want to even say that. I don't want to.
The Walking David says Artie eventually rehires Furio. I'm very curious. No, sorry. No, don't elaborate. Furio would be his muscle, as he were. Furio got a hold of men down while Artie gives them a great monologues, pouring boiling hot soup on people. They would call Artie the cook. I love it, Walking David. You need to write a spin-off and pitch it to Johnny V, where Artie takes over the family and he rehires Furio to honor. And he doesn't know anything about Furio and Carmela, so he's just thinking he's bringing Furio back to honor the family. And a couple people in the live chat were saying Bobby wearing the fat suit. I did not know for the longest time he was wearing a fat suit for a while, and then eventually
only in the beginning.
Then he gained enough weight to not need the fat suit. I guess he was like a college level basketball player for a while. Thank you, Walking David, Barbara. Tony's sister is
the weird thing is, Phil and I had one Barbara that was our age in high school, and she was actually in this thing of ours, which is the crazy part of it.
Oh yeah, and her mother's name was also Barbara, and she was also in this thing of ours.
That's all I want to say about that.
Yeah, no, okay, that's what you're gonna say. I was thinking the same exact thing. We're not going down that road, but Matt and I were, and I was friendly with her. Like I went to a couple parties at the house and stuff like that. We were friends with somebody that was connected to, I believe it's the Giannese family. Connected.
No, we don't need to go that far. We're done.
Let's not talk about any more about that. We're done.
It would be like going to school with Meadow, though. Kind of.
Yeah. No, it was exactly like that. It was exactly like going to school with Meadow. And the older son, I believe, for a lot of people, was like going to school with AJ or Jackie Jr., from what I've heard.
Yeah.
At the time. There's a funny story that I don't. Well, I'll tell. No. This isn't about them. This is about a former teacher of ours that had your similar surname. He was an English teacher that we grew up. He had the younger kid, the son, in a classroom, and at one point pulled a squirt gun out of his desk and squirted him with the squirt gun and said, "You're going to need this in your father's business," and was suspended, I believe, for it.
As he should have been. I mean,
that dude was mega inappropriate for whatever it's worth. And he's one of those people that thought he was Robin Williams, but from Dead Poet Society, but he wasn't. And it came off very poorly. And I believe he had many problems with many other students moving forward. I think he was suspended several times in classes that later after us as well. Anyways, so sorry for the.
Yeah, that was Go Big Blue. Anyways,
now you're just giving hints. Now that is crazy, but Matt is telling no lies. Matt, I know we never put any timetables on these, but we are gonna try to do about one a month. So we'll be back for the next.
Yeah, but Phil, we've been saying that for 3 months, and we've done one. So.
Yeah, but to me, when we start doing them, it's it feels
now we're in.
We feel alive. This feels like we're actually. To me, it's not even about the consistency. It's, are we actually in the process of doing them? Now this is like 2 in a row, I believe, that we've done here, or 3 in a row. No, because we started with like Pine Barrens in this run. So yeah, this is a few in a row, 3 in a row. So 3 in a row is a streak. Let's not poo-poo this shit. I got ahead of myself in the Marblehead place. I thought we were gonna end in a year and get to another series, like make you watch Mad Men or something.
The Marblehead place, what, like Salem? You mean? Salem's where we did this.
No, but then. During the quarantine time, you and I got into a rhythm for a while where we were doing where we did like 10 in a row or something like that. Like we were doing a lot. It was the only thing.
Then I had 3 surgeries and like I couldn't talk because they were in my mouth. There's a whole mess up.
Right. So we're gonna get back into it. And yes, Walking David and I are finally gonna do Back to the Future 2. It's going to happen. Sonky Point says, I thought Pussy's character could have been great on the show. I hate that he got killed off. Could they have kept Pussy on longer? Would you have hated them extending the rat story with Pussy? I guess you don't get the...
I hated the rat story. I hated that weird thing where he started acting like a cop at the end was like honestly one of the weirdest things to go back and rewatch.
And I guess you don't get the Adriana story as awesome as it is without the Pussy going, because they needed to get another rat in, another focus rat character. So everybody, thank you so much, Matt.
If you're giving me the choice between Pussy and Adriana, I'm gonna take Adriana all day.
All day, every day.
Well, I had one more thing to say before you wrap this up.
Oh no, say five more things.
Damn it.
Hold on to it because I have a few other things to talk about, Matt.
Oh, I thought you were wrapping it up. I thought that was like goodbye music.
I mean, it wasn't. It was. I was just moving it along a little bit. So,
all right, go then. Is that like our Oscar speech?
Yeah, I guess
like that's the music to move on.
No. I was thinking about it, but I forgot something. Do you remember what you're gonna say?
No, not yet. I'm gonna
the first scene of the hour connects back to the pilot episode. Tony hopes that the family of ducks have returned to his backyard. Tony watches Dean Martin sing "My Rifle, My Pony, and Me" in the film Rio Bravo. The song will be heard again later in the season in Pyomai, another Dean Martin reference. We learned that Paulie got arrested as he was driving out to the Martin's birthplace in Steubenville. When Ralphie mentions Rosalie's depression, Janet says, Bartleby, humanity, the final words of Melville's Bartleby, the scavenger. Adriana comes to borrow Carmela's clothes, and it's the last time we saw that was in the episode Employee of the Month. Zellman mentions the Down Neck section of Newark. Down Neck, of course, is the name of season 1 episode. In that episode, we watched Tony make an ice cream sundae. As he does in this episode as well. There's some meta irony. Tony Sirico is having to sit out part of season 4 due to an aching back. It was Paulie, after all, who doubted Big Pussy was generally suffering from back problems. That's kind of funny. Old school versus new school. Displeased old schooler Carmine chastises new school Tony. Says, John, I went to a cookout. Dawn doesn't wear shorts. Will Arnett is in this episode as Agent Severino's husband, and Arnett is in a non-comedic role. It's kind of funny seeing Will Arnett try to not be funny. And the episode had the highest viewership of any Soprano episode. Wow. With 13...
Well, this must have been when it really, probably a year off. Everyone, first season people are talking about it. Second season people are talking about it starting at HBO. Third season, everyone's bought this and is catching up on HBO. And now it's like... This is it. Everyone's got HBO for this show at this point.
Yeah, you've had Pine Barrens. You've had all the string of horrible, violent episodes that you get in this season. And 13.4 million people. It won its time slot that night and had the 6th highest ratings for the week. A surprising feat considering the vast majority of Americans were not subscribed to HBO at the time. Matt, did you by chance remember what you were going to say?
I did. If Back to the Future happened now, the year they'd be going back to is 1993.
It's pretty fucking crazy. We're fucking old. No, okay. I thought they should have kept Big Pussy, says Luna. I enjoyed it as well, Matt. So what is this? This is the end of April? No, mid-April. So
mid-April.
We'll try to be back here around the time of my birthday, mid-May.
All right. I have no idea what the next episode is about.
Me neither. This is the last thing before we go, Matt. Do you prefer doing 1 episode at a time or 2 episodes at a time?
I think anyone in this chat prefers 1.
1. I think 2. I agree. I think 1 episode serves it well unless we get to ends of seasons and we can wrap up the season watching 2.
There's a lot happened in this one. Tony completely dicked over Junior.
Yeah, I feel like
I'm not giving you anything. Go screw. Completely did whatever he did to Christopher, and I still don't know what it is because we still don't know if Tony believes what he told him or not.
I think he does. I mean, or I think he's just manipulating him or using the power for it. Someone asked what's the best Sopranos episode. We've been asked this a little bit before. It's hard to quantify what the best Soprano episode. A lot of people would say Pine Barrens. Whitecaps is another one.
It's not because it's so heavy on those 2 characters and that how does the best episode not have Junior as a big part of it?
Right.
It's hard.
Yeah. I mean,
how does the best episode, Junior
Matt's frozen for a second here, but Matt's right. You can't have the best episode without having a lot of the characters. An episode that just simply features Christopher and Polly as our main central figures.
I love that I froze in that face. That was great.
You're like this.
Just a nice big fat fuck frozen for a second.
You were pondering.
Eating that steak. Oh, I froze again. It was great.
Just for a second. A rewatch. I just cleared Rome again. Great show, Rome. But what is the best episode? To me, it would have to be a big episode that features a lot of the characters together in some way. So to me, maybe it would be a season 2 episode that I'm not thinking about. Possibly a season 5 episode. Those tend to be more of the community of the group together seasons. The Bobby's dad killing that dude might be one of my favorite episodes of all time. He's
a famous actor that had a cameo.
Yeah.
Everyone knows who he is. He's not in a lot of stuff, but he's
Burt Young.
He's fucking Rocky.
And so is Feech LaManna as well.
Yeah,
he's in a lot of things. So I would say that Bobby Bacala killing Mustang Sally was a really awesome episode of The Sopranos. Ralphie and Tony getting into the fist fight after Tony hits him after killing the stripper. I thought that was she was just a whore. I thought that's a really intense episode.
And Silvio shows up at Ralphie's house. It's like hilarious when he shows up and says she needs to come back. Yeah.
Tony, the episode we have Tony. I keep calling you Tony. Matt, the episode that Tony shows up at the Pyomai episode where it's not the Pyomai, it's a couple episodes afterwards. The episode that he kills Ralphie in is an amazing episode.
Yeah, and Christopher shows up strung out of his mind, and like he's amazing in it, showing up. And Christopher just goes like, whoa,
dude.
Yeah.
And the whole scene with them trying to dig the hole, is just freaking hilarious. That is a great episode of The Sopranos. So I think it's something that when we finally finish this, it might be a good extra podcast to do where we each choose 5 episodes we want to talk about of our 5 favorite Soprano episodes or something like that.
I remember us in seasons 1 and 2 being like, "Oh man, this is the best episode."
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think it might be in season 1 or 2, Matt, because Junior, but Junior becomes so much better as time goes on. It might be a season 4 episode we haven't watched yet, or season 5 episode. I know you're a little more down on it because you're not a big Tony B fan, but there's still
not a big Tony B fan.
There's still some great episodes. Christopher being high. Speaking at Livia. Christopher, Livia's funeral is an excellent episode. Christopher's
amazing in that when he's just running, because you've been that guy or seen that guy at 3:00 in the morning at a party.
I've been that guy, of course.
I've been that guy too. Like at a family event where you're the one that's wasted on something.
We were talking about it earlier. Christopher's intervention episode is unbelievably funny too, and really fucking crazily awesome. Another guest appearance from a known actor.
Well, and that has everyone in it except for Junior. That one scene,
right? That's a rare occurrence, Matt, where you get most Soprano actors all in one scene together.
Paulie, Sil, Christopher,
Bobby,
Adriana, Tony. Yeah, no Junior.
No Junior.
No Janice, who are also,
if I remember correctly, there is a Beeline's Junior story in that episode, which is probably awesome too. So we'll keep an eye out for that when we get to that, after he kills that poor dog.
Yeah, we know what happens after Cassette dies.
Dog. Yeah,
we're setting us up for that right now because like Cassette was really annoying in this episode. He told her to be quiet a few times.
Exactly. Adriana's got to get butt problems, and then she's got to turn to become a rat and all that sort of stuff. And then Corsette gets that all that sort of stuff. Christopher being
head was in the toilet. It was disgusting.
I put the sour cream. It was very disgusting. I said my piece, Christopher. I was sick. I will vouch for him. He was sick. I said my piece, Christopher.
I don't write nothing down.
Let
him take his lumps. We're not supposed to be judgmental.
You're a disgrace. You're a piece of shit. And I'm going to sniff your girlfriend's panties, you fucking asshole. Tony's coma episode, the dream sequence episode, the test dream episode was really awesome as well, David. That is a great episode. We talked about it a little bit earlier. There's some late season episodes that are really awesome too, even though some of the characters are gone. The episode where Tony and Christopher steal the wine, the Vipers. The Viper episode is a really good
What is that, a
episode.
Girl Scout troop or whatever the hell they say to him.
Yeah, it might be a Christopher and Tony centric episode, but it's really good. Christopher's death episode is oddly really good with Tony going to Vegas and taking mushrooms and stuff.
Talking about someone doing an experience on drugs, Tony taking peyote in the casino.
Oh, it was peyote, yeah, no mushrooms, peyote, yeah.
One of the best scenes ever of someone just like, if you've never done peyote, not that I have, but I've done close enough to know like that's the experience.
Thank you for saying that, because I don't want to out you in that one. We've both done tripping drugs before, and when you see it done on television and movies, it's very easy to see who's making this that knows what they're talking about and who doesn't, and that's one of the best depicted scenes ever on that kind of substance. I also would make note, show you mentioned earlier that I know you haven't seen. There's a scene in Entourage with Jeremy Piven on mushrooms that's also a very accurate occurrence, but it's not done often well. It's often over. To my point about earlier with people acting drunk, people acting tripping is even worse. It
ends up looking like the Magical Mystery Tour, a Yellow Submarine or something. It ends up looking like ludicrous when people make it up. It's like, that's not really,
Yeah, and they do weird camera angles with it. So like, it's strange. It's a hard thing to simulate on screen. The female boss. Oh yeah, the episode where they're in, where Tony bumps into where he's in Italy, and then the episode where he
and Paulie through that whole thing is just like, it's so aching for him. Though his whole Commandadore.
A lot of really awesome choices, and I can't wait to see all of your episodes. Basically, at one point in time, Matt and I could do this at any point in time. We can take a break. We shouldn't take a break, but we could take a break from our normal Soprano podcast episodes.
The thing we do once every 3 months. Yeah,
but I'm saying, like, if we wanted to, next time or one of these times, we could choose. I think we'll do this after season 4, between season 4 and season 5. We'll do an episode like this as a bonus Soprano episode in between seasons, as a carrot for us to get through season 4. At the end of season 4, Matt and I will do a special of our top 5 Soprano episodes of all time. Because
here's the problem, Phil. We're not going to have seen 5 and 6 yet.
Oh, you're going to skip ahead.
I know I'm not picking anything with Tony Blundetto in it is the best episode.
Right, and most of season 6 not going to be on your fucking list too. Come on.
No, the first half of season 6 has no chance.
Yeah, exactly. You're not putting a Kevin Finnery episode up on that fucking thing.
No.
Although
again, scenes at the end, the scene with Tony. I mean, the last scene ever with Tony and
Junior is really awesome. I'd say the episode that Junior finally shoots Tony is actually a really good episode before Tony goes in that coma. So let's get a couple more comments. Oh fuck, I love the episode of the Joshua Tree, the Entourage. Absolutely, Walking David. There's a lot of mixed bag of Entourage, but when it hits on something good, it hit on something good, and that tripping scene with Piven in Joshua Tree and the way they all played tripping, and Drama played and Kevin Dillon played tripping too. Like, they all played it really fucking accurate, almost like they're taking something in that scene. And knowing Jeremy Piven, he might have been, but that's a perfect example of playing it just right, like just enough. And the same with Tony playing it in the casino. That is a great fucking scene, and he plays it hard, but he plays it like James Gandolfini has taken tripping drugs before. There's no chance he hasn't.
Yep.
Especially if you know his history with regular drugs. He's taken tripping drugs before. There's a 0% chance he did not take acid, mescaline, or mushrooms in college.
Yep.
I'd bet my fucking life on it.
He could have been on peyote when they filmed it. Like,
yeah, exactly. He's like, I have to get into character. The script floats. Maybe it's a sign. The best mob movie, the Jerky Boys movie, is an underrated movie. Snap ahead. Listen, pork chop. Listen, pork chop, you fucking snap ahead. Don't hate on the Jerky Boys. I mean, I fucking know. I mean, I remember when that was I remember Barry, Matt. I remember in our junior high school when the Jerky Boys and Two Live Crew were like the coolest. Like, you were bad if you were listening to that. If you had the Jerky Boys or Two Live Crew tapes.
Yeah, I had like a 4th generation cassette copy of someone's like a copy of someone's copy of someone's copy of someone's copy of Two Live Crew.
Yeah, that was the one that we pass around. Like I remember specifically during the Land Person year when he came in, like everyone was passing around that cassette, was passing around Me So Horny and all that sort of shit. Anyways, okay. Thank you to everyone that's joined us. If you haven't and you're on your way out, please hit that like button. I don't want to keep Matt too late. You know, a series has good dialogue when you can recall it. Honestly, Luna, we could spend the thing that's great about The Sopranos, and I know I keep ending 5 times. I'm like a guy saying goodbye at a party like 10 times. But let's go over another 5 minutes. But one of the things that's great about The Sopranos is it's like and I mean this in a weird way that might not make sense, Matt. I feel like it's the Beatles of drama shows like this. Even though there's shows before, people could say Oz, St. Elsewhere, and I'm the biggest Oz fan. I think it deserves its place at the table as one of the best shows. It's underrated, especially early Oz. But I think The Sopranos is like that foundation point where everyone can sing along the Beatles. Everyone feels like the Beatles is theirs. Unlike other rock bands that come later where people get more picky about it. I know people that do not like the Beatles, yourself included. Like I helped you become a Beatles fan. But in the sense that I mean it's like that foundation kind of show that you just watch and you can quote and you can sing along and you speak about it the way that the Sopranos subreddit interacts with each other, that half conversations aren't even conversations.
No, they're just people quoting shit about like, yeah.
But Matt, in fairness, they're that, but you have real conversations that way. You actually know what the person's speaking because they talk about whatever the question is and answer it through soprano quotes.
Yes.
Like you can't do that with other shows. As much as I love Breaking Bad, as much as I love Game of Thrones, you can do it with a little bit with Game of Thrones, early Game of Thrones.
You can do it with Seinfeld.
You can do it with Seinfeld to a certain extent. Absolutely. I feel like you can do it with early Game of Thrones too, is another one I'd mention you can. You can do it, but you can't really do it with Mad Men. You can't really do it with
Can't
Oz.
do it with Breaking Bad.
You can't really do it with The Wire.
Name like quotes you know from Breaking Bad. There's a few of them that everyone knows, but there's not a lot
I'm the one that knocks, Matt. You know,
that's the quote everyone's gonna say though.
You're goddamn right.
You're goddamn right. Those are the 2 quotes.
Yeah, bitch.
Or Mike Ehrmantraut saying, "Let me die in peace."
Or Jesse's, yeah, bitch, science, bitch, whatever, bitch. Yeah, bitch, whatever, bitch. Wings with Paul and Linda. Okay, this is like Wings with Paul and Linda. 3 seasons of Oz were some of the best television. Season 4.5 is good too. First half of 4. The second half of 4, moving forward, is still decent, but it's not on the level of The Wire and The Sopranos, where the first 3 seasons of Oz are, to me, right on the level, are in the conversation with The Wire, Oz, 6 Feet Under, those great HBO shows. And I think Oz is almost there. It just gets a little silly towards the end because they pumped out episodes too fast and didn't have, and part of that problem is The Sopranos taking too long of a break and David Chase and HBO demanding Oz give a second half of season 4 to give The Sopranos more time.
And it's a very different show, but Rome was made at that same time period too.
Yeah, you and
I are both big Rome fans.
Huge Rome fan. You wouldn't have Game of Thrones on HBO if you didn't have Rome. Joe's also a huge Rome fan as well. Cool C says, great name in the live chat, Cool C. My guilty pleasure episodes: Happy Wanderer, Bust Out, a couple of Davey Scatino episodes, which I cannot disagree with you. I think Matt knows this. I don't know if Matt's as high as I am. I'm huge on Davey Scatino in this show. Craig and I were huge Davey Scatino. Some of Craig and I's best back and forth soprano quotes are Davey Scatino stuff. Again, huge.
And you're talking about, you have Richie at the peak of Richie during those.
Yep.
Great Paulie scenes. Everyone's great in those.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's to me why that's almost the height time period of The Sopranos. It's kind of hard to beat that. Claude says 6 Feet Under was great. I just finished watching this series. I think I'm for sure about Oz. Welcome, Jay. I've mentioned this to you before, Matt. I know you're more picky than some about TV shows, and it takes a lot for you to watch.
My wife has seen every TV show ever made. So.
Right. Your wife has much better taste than you when it comes to TV shows. No, I'm kidding. You're selective though. I mean,
she has much more free time. I'll put it that way.
I would say you are very strong on the shows you love, which is Sopranos, Breaking Bad. You watched once, but you loved. You're also very high on the show The Americans, I believe.
Love The Americans.
Any other shows I'm missing that are big? Do you watch Ozark? Do you enjoy that show for the most part?
No, my wife watched it. She watched Ozark, Succession, all of those.
Mad Men.
Yeah, I love Babylon Berlin's a show we watch. That's like, again, that's a weird one. It's in German, but that's one of the best shows. If anyone here watches Babylon Berlin or hasn't,
Have you ever watched 6 Feet Under?
My wife's seen it.
Mad Men?
My wife's seen it.
But you have no interest in these kind of shows? Matt is frozen. He doesn't like this. He feels like it's an Inquisition. In the Inquisition. What shows did you watch? The Inquisition. Now am I trying to do a spoof on a spoof of Mel Brooks? I shouldn't try to fuck with the master. But I'm just trying to stall some time until Matt comes back so we can do this. Okay, so let me get to the poll while we're waiting for Matt. Our poll about best antagonist for Tony. And it's pretty even here in our poll for the people that joined us tonight. That says Richie 31%, Phil Leotardo 25%, Livia 25%, Ralphie 18%. So Matt, I don't know if you can hear me right now while you're frozen, but
I'm back now.
You're back. Our poll results were Richie won at 31%. Phil Leotardo and Livia tied at 25%, and only 18% say Ralphie. Which I agree with those numbers. I think those are generally accurate numbers between all of our Soprano villains. If I could have put more than 4, I would have added Janice. I would have added Junior maybe for season 1 type stuff, and a couple of other people maybe. Johnny Sack maybe.
We're going to go because I keep freezing and this sucks.
Okay. So on that note, everyone, finally for the last time, we'll go. Matt and I will be back in about a month or so, give or take, to talk about some new Soprano episodes.
Hopefully my internet's fixed by then.
Yeah, it's fine. It happens, Matt. Freeze frame, Jay Giles Band. Matt, that we should have played that song right there. Everyone, we'll talk to you guys next time. Love you guys. I'll be back on Sunday. Oh, sorry about that. I'll be back on Sunday night with Joe Dirty Locks talking about and Matt, you're welcome to join us if you're around, but I doubt on a Sunday night we're going to be
I actually got to go home to Swampscott this weekend.
Oh, okay. But if you want to join us, you're more than welcome. But Joe and I will be on at about 6:45 p.m. on Sunday evening Eastern time to talk about our top movies in every genre. We picked I think it's about 14 different genres. You can see the video's already posted. You can see in the comment in the description of that video what all the topics are or what all the categories are. We're each going to pick.
What time is this?
At about 6:45 p.m.
I'll probably be in transit, but I'll see.
But yeah, if you're around, pop in the live chat, and actually you don't even have to do that, Matt. The link that I sent you, if you show up and want to jump in and even troll Joe and I during it, you can pop on in that link and it will pop you right into the stream, like literally right into the stream.
I'll be driving back to Vermont from Massachusetts, but if I am here, I will try to join.
Yeah, and if not, we'll plan it. That Joe and I usually are going to be doing until we get a show that's later in the evening. We're going to be doing Sundays around that time. So if you can't join us this week, we're going to do other shows like this. To keep our Sunday streaks going, to keep doing Sundays every week at this time. So yeah, keep that going. So if it's not this week, a time in the future. But yeah, Matt and I will be back in about a month, and I'll be on this Sunday. Talk to you guys next time.